alter the fate of the bill, which is expected to pass. And this marathon session coming after Senate leaders struck a deal with moderate Democratic Senator Joe Manchin over emergency jobless benefits. Now, under this new agreement, existing $300 weekly unemployment benefits will be extended through early September. Previous version of the bill passed by the House had increased those benefits to $400 a week, but ended them in August. So this bill also provides direct payments of $1,400 to most Americans, along with aid to state, local governments, schools. If passed, the bill will have to go back to the House before President Biden can sign it.
Whatever form it takes, as long as it's not substantially modified from the bill that we sent over to the Senate, I expect that it will have strong support in the House.
GOP Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan had to go home for a family funeral, we've learned, so only 99 senators are actually voting this weekend. That means the vice president will be on hand to break any ties. Back here at home with
for millions of Americans. On Saturday, the Senate passed President Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package, bringing a third round of stimulus checks one step closer to hitting bank accounts across the country.
This plan will get checks out the door starting this month to the American people who so desperately need the help.
But it's not a done deal yet. The legislation has to return to the House before it can be sent to the president's desk. The House is expected to start debating the revised version on Tuesday, but the clock is ticking as unemployment benefits expire on March 14th. Speaker Nancy Pelosi released a statement saying, quote, "The House now hopes to have a bipartisan vote on this life-saving legislation and urges Republicans to join us in recognition of the devastating reality of this vicious virus and the economic crisis and the need for decisive action." Once the president signs the bill into law, the IRS could start rolling out $1,400 checks within days. Americans making less than $75,000 and married couples with incomes up to $150,000 will receive the full amount, then payments start phasing out. If the previous rounds of pandemic relief were any indication, economists expect consumer spending to skyrocket, giving the economy a much-needed boost. It took the IRS 1 week to start sending out checks in January, but this time around, the IRS will also have to deal with tax returns, potentially delaying the rollout even further. In New York, Alex Hogan, Fox 5 News.
Every time you see me, I'm a different guy. There's a good chance that this time next year, I'm going to be Mario Lopez. Now, where are the vaccines at?
Well, I thought you were getting it on Monday, Joe.
Yeah, but Kamala wants me to get it over with.
Well, I'm worried about you, Joe, especially since you're already in a cast on day minus 40 in office.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you for having me.
You got it. I want to start with a promise that President Biden said earlier this week. He said we are now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May. Now, he was careful not to say that meant that we were going to have shots in the arms by the end of May. But walk me through that. What does that mean? What should people that don't have vaccines right now take away from that? How soon after the end of May should they expect to be vaccinated?
Well, Chuck, let me start with it's really big progress to have enough vaccine supply for all adult Americans by the end of May. When we walked into office 6-7 weeks ago, there was not enough supply, and it was pushed much further out. The actions by the president, including using the Defense Production Act and bringing Merck and Johnson & Johnson together into a historic partnership, have accelerated our ability to have enough vaccine by the end of May for all adult Americans. That's progress, and that is really important. At the same time, we've ramped up the number of shots per day. When we came into office, the prior week was 900,000 shots on average per day. We right now are averaging 2.2 million shots per day. We've had 3 record days in a row. In fact, yesterday was 2.9 million shots in a single day. So we're making real progress by increasing the number of vaccinators in the field. There are 3,500 federal personnel and National Guard now helping at community vaccination sites and other locations to put needles in arms. And we've increased the number of places where Americans can get vaccinated by standing up community vaccination centers, over 500 of them. And at the same time, making shots available at local pharmacies and at community health centers, which serve some of the most disadvantaged members of our population.
Okay.
Biden believes in, which is dealing with the problem in Central America through aid and assistance to eradicate the poverty and violence there.
Yamiche, though, the politics of immigration have never gone well for Democrats recently. Are they ready for this?
It's only time will tell if Democrats are ready for this, because you have a White House that is wanting to say that there's not a crisis at the border, but the numbers don't lie. You have a number of unaccompanied minors that are coming to the border, that are being held in facilities that even progressive Democrats are pointing to and saying, if that's what we call humane, there's a problem there. You also, of course, have a Democratic conference that has been really stuck on the issue of immigration. Time and time again, they've tried to do this. They have this big bill now that's sitting in the Senate, it seems, and sitting in Congress. It seems as though it's going to have to be broken up. So there are just, I think, a lot of different unanswered questions on this, and there's a real big problem at the border that's continuing to brew, and this White House, I think, is going to really have to contend with that.
And it's a Republican Party that, while
immigration activists say what's happening at the border is inhumane.
There are human beings dying, and we can blame it on the rain or whatever, but we have to be very specific. This is the consequence of inhumane immigration laws.
10 of the 13 people who died have been identified as Mexican citizens. Activists blame a pandemic-related measure that allows Border Patrol to expel people without giving them the chance to seek asylum. They claim it leads some to try and evade authorities instead of surrendering, sometimes with deadly consequences. At the border in Arizona, a Border Patrol, the young child and his father entered the U.S. illegally on Monday. The father strapped the boy to his back and went into the canal to try and cross it. But soon the current took them. One agent got out of his uniform and jumped into the water to save the boy. Other agents and nearby civilians helped pull the father to safety. House Democrats have passed the most ambitious effort in decades to overhaul.
Moving up, what we write about in the book is him taping a message for the Democratic Convention, really angering the Biden people, because it was a 5-minute message, of which the last 8 seconds or so were an endorsement of Joe Biden. The rest of it was an endorsement of Governor Cuomo for a future presidential run. He was asked to recut the video and refused to do it. And I think this ties into the sort of attitude of him being, acting, as Danny said, with impunity.
Yamiche, I was just going to say, it's stories like that. There's a reason Andrew Cuomo doesn't have a lot of defenders today, not just because of his behavior, but he's not been an easy person to deal with over the years.
That's right. And part of the reason why Andrew Cuomo was in some ways rising in the summer of 20 was because of that brash attitude, that kind of attitude where he felt like he could be the in charge, and you could tell that he was someone who would be tough. But that same style is also what aides, and more of them are coming out saying, created a toxic work environment. And I think it's going to be harder and harder for Democrats to either be silent or defend him as more and more of these aides come out. And that White House sources that I've just been talking to, they continue to stick to the fact that they want to see an investigation happen. But again, let's remember that it was Vice President Harris and Senator Gillibrand and a number of other women in the Democratic caucus that said the Democrats had to be on a higher moral ground. So I just think it's going to be even harder as the days go on.
Yeah, Jay Johnson, the alpha.
What we're going to be doing is digging ourselves out of a hole. And the real question for, I think, a lot of people in the United States is how, in the end, are we going to pay for this? It's not going to be easy, and Congress doesn't seem to want to take on that question at all.
Truly and deeply apologize for it. I never touched anyone inappropriately.
And Danny Pletka, here's Charlotte.
I'm deeply uncomfortable, and I have to get out of this room as soon as possible.
Sort of the normal rules of politics here, Danny. This would seem it's not a matter of if, but when he resigns. But this is Andrew Cuomo.
Look, these women coming forward should be a wake-up call for everybody. I've never understood why Andrew Cuomo was viewed as the Emperor of New York after he sent thousands of elderly people to their death last year in nursing homes. Now the chickens are coming home to roost, not only on that, but on the fact that he's another man who believes that he should have impunity because of who he is in the world of politics. It's utterly disgusting.
John Allen.
The governor of New York sick man. He seriously is. He needs to be removed from office as soon as possible.